So a couple of weeks ago, I pulled up Steam and saw that Darkest Dungeon was on sale. Now, Darkest Dungeon is a game that I've had my eye on for a while, heard a lot of great things about, and seemed right up my alley. So I took a look around the page. Deliberating whether or not I wanted to finally buy it, I noticed that the way Steam displays reviews has changed. Steam now displays recent reviews that have been voted helpful instead of the most helpful out of all of them. This grabbed my attention, as most of the recent helpful reviews on Steam were negative, despite the game having an overall positive rating. Curious as to whether Darkest Dungeon recently updated with a patch that was negatively received, I dug through these reviews and came to the conclusion that most of these reviews were useless. The vast majority of these negative reviews admitted that they enjoyed the game, but the sticking point that they all couldn't get past was that Darkest Dungeon is too RNG based, and couldn't recommend the game based on that fact. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, RNG refers to random number generation, which means that it boils down to probabilities. Everything that happens is based on a certain probability percentage. 80% probability of an attack successfully landing, things of that nature. As with most turn-based role-playing games, these probabilities are at the very core of the gameplay. Darkest Dungeon is advertised as an extremely unforgiving game where you play the odds. It's a game of risk versus reward, where you have to weigh every move you make very carefully, as it could easily mean the end for one of your characters. This is my gripe with these reviews. Their main problem is a core aspect of the game that is expected and even advertised. I have absolutely no problem with valid criticism, but if you buy a game without an understanding of what you're getting when the information is readily available to you, then why should the game suffer for that? When I saw all the recent negativity, my immediate assumption was that something was changed in the game for the worse. And it wasn't until further reading that I realized they bought a game that ultimately wasn't for them. Now let me be clear, I have no problem with reviews in general, or even user reviews. Most of the time, user reviews are far more reliable than an organization that may or may not have biases one way or the other. My main problem with this is the change to the way Steam displays reviews. Recent reviews being at the forefront is helpful for if a game is patched or changed in some way that is detrimental to the experience. But it also has issues. Steam sales often lead to an influx of players who might not normally have had an interest in the game, so if a sale leads to a large group of people buying a game that isn't for them, then it can have a big impact on perception of the game. Overall, this isn't a huge issue to most games, and in all probability has more upsides than negatives. As games have become easier to patch, more drastic changes to gameplay are a possibility, and can easily result in a good game getting worse, or vice versa. More up-to-date reviews would be helpful in indicating that. I'm just leery about the system as it could potentially lead to lost sales of perfectly good games in some situations. Hopefully this video wasn't too terribly ranty. It's a very fine line between an unhelpful rant and something actually constructive to add to a discussion. Reviews can be a touchy subject, and while the recent changes to how Steam reviews are displayed isn't as controversial as things like Metacritic, I just hope I was able to stay relatively fair in how I looked at this. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time.